Holy heavy hands. That's a whole different clap.
He's been lifting.
Hey, we're doing it again. It is Monday. It's our first night podcast on January 23rd, 2023. And I have two special guests here. The Canadian Pipeline hit Knoxville once again. Sasha, Giovanni.
Gavami.
See, I don't even know. How long have we known each other?
It's been
2014.
Yeah,
that was it. Yeah. The super sports agent from CFL, and we are going to get him to adapt to our lifestyle here in the States. He's been living with me, so he's loving Fox News. He's like, Chaz, can you make that louder? And he brought another phenom guy. Sasha always delivers the talent. His name is Theo. Hold on.
Let's go, yeah.
Benedet?
Yeah, no, close. Yeah.
no.
Missing a couple letters, but yeah.
Say it.
Benedet.
Oh, that's a cool name. Is that French?
Northern Italian.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you tell me that?
I don't know if
I did.
I was probably on meds.
Yeah.
All right, so listen, we're going to have fun, okay? Will you loosen up? God, he's so uptight. Grip's actually vibing this afternoon. Hey, this is nice. I
What's
like
he
the
drinking?
night ones.
What's
I
Grip
don't know
drinking?
what Grip is, but he's been happy the last couple
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah.
I think he got into the Woodward Reserve. All right, so this is what we're going to do. What I always do with the athletes, Sasha knows this, is I ask one question. Because I don't know you well. I know you lived in the house with me last week. We've been for a week and what?
A week.
Days, yeah, a week.
All right, and I think we've had some good times.
Yeah,
it's been fun.
It's been fun.
It's
always fun.
I actually missed you guys. Friday I didn't. I was mad, but after I spewed that out, I was good to go. I missed you again. All right, so I asked this to the athletes. Okay, everybody answers this. This is a good one. When did you know? Because you're training right now for the East-West All-Star game, right? You'll give some more feedback on this. I just want to know one question that I asked all the athletes. When did you know that you were different? Because, people that aren't watching, hopefully this will be on YouTube and out there on all the streams of podcasts. But the guy's a giant. He's like 6'7", 6'8", 300 pounds. Thanks, Chaz, for putting on that weight, right? And he's a monster, but a great-looking kid. But I don't know anything about him, which is awesome. And these podcasts always do it, which we know. When did you know you were different?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I guess I always knew I had some talent, but I think a good place for that maybe would be during the COVID year, just because I remember when our season was canceled up in Canada for COVID, and obviously our varsity gym wasn't open, so everybody was kind of cooped up at home. I remember a lot of guys on my team just kind of took it as, we get a 2-week vacation, at least at first, from working out, just to sit at home and play video games. And I viewed it the other way, where it's all these other guys now have all these obstacles in their way, probably won't be working out, probably will be sitting on their couch. So why don't I now take the time to work harder than I ever have and get that jump on them? And that way, when I came out of COVID, I think the results in terms of difference showed on the field. And that's kind of when my career, at least in college, jump-started in terms of getting recognition, playing better, and helping my team.
Really?
Yeah.
So would you consider yourself a late bloomer?
Yeah, in a way. Like, I was always a bigger kid, but, like, coming out of high school, because, like, I was playing so many sports, I had never really focused on one of them. So I had some college offers, but I only met Coach Neil, my college coach, at the UBC camp. And credit to him, he had a long-term vision for me to bring me in. But it was only once I got to college and I first really, I didn't really work out in terms of, being in the gym seriously until I got to college. So I started doing all that, started learning technique properly, that, I started to have some success.
Yeah, because we usually get, and you guys have heard these before, it's usually 13 middle school basketball game. Harrison was 8th grade. Everybody was different of taking over a game. But way before, what were you, 19, 18 when you figured something out?
18.
You're 20 now.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so Sash, you're way ahead of the game when you start recruiting people. One of my questions is, how long have you known about Theo? Because you usually like back up a couple years and go, hey, I got one for you. Give me a year or two. That's how it's always been.
Theo was actually, for me, a bit later on the target list in terms of, I think, to his point, it's a bit of a late bloomer. So, every year, month of May, I talk to CFL scouts and I kind of get their opinion on guys going into their draft year potentially. And talking to a couple of them, Theo's name came up, and looking him up and seeing he had just been to like a CFL prospect All-Star game. It's an All-Star game that's in May, which is a year before their draft year. So he had been to that, and he had done some testing and stuff. And obviously, like, I don't like to just judge based on testing, but looked pretty impressive. He obviously has the size for it. One thing that caught my attention was the age. Just saying, like, Theo just turned 21. So for me, that's a huge advantage, I find, going into a process like this, to be able to have that opportunity to be young going into it. It helps a ton, because you just continue learning. And if you go into it older, it's not impossible. We've done it with other guys who've been older, but it's just a different perspective. So I started talking to Theo probably in May or June of 2022, and really I knew him being from out west. Western Canada is not normally a place where I've recruited a lot of, just because there are a lot of agents out west and just in general. But I wanted to obviously reach out and see if it would be a good fit. And I think what's important is respecting his process and being communication, not too much, but also at a pace where he felt comfortable and he knew that I had a plan. And I'm very comfortable in the setting of having Canadian university guys looking to go pro and looking to go to the NFL, and the process for that. I've been lucky and privileged enough to work with some strong athletes from Canada who've made it and have had success, who've been through this wood gym, most if not all. So for me, it was knowing that recipe for success. You go in a lot more confident in recruiting, and you're like, listen, this is what I can propose. But also for me, last weekend, so seeing Theo and seeing how he works, is you kind of see that work ethic, and you kind of see the way he's wired is a bit different in a good way. And we've seen guys, and you know it more than anybody. You see them come through and like he's got it, or he's lacking certain things. And I think that, he's a late bloomer, although he's very young, but he's also, to his credit, like during COVID when he took that year off to set himself far and ahead of everybody. I think that's the mentality you want in the pros, because that's what's going to get you from being late round undrafted, even if you're drafted early, to becoming. I told him the goal should be a Pro Bowl player, and
he will be. I'm laughing because it's like, how do you explain Sasha? Griff could probably, because Griff's like the more raw eyes. I've known you so long, but I call you the super agent of Canada. I would just, I never asked you, and maybe I'll have Theo go through that. Is I just assume that you're the number one agent in Canada, and the number one guy wants to be with you. Like, it's not, it's a no-brainer. But it's going to be hard for you to be quiet and not do this. But I want you to take me through the process of, like, because I out of all these years, I've never asked Sasha, because first of all, he's living with me now. This is so unique of the sports agent and his athlete living with me. Sure, yeah. It's pretty cool. And then, another kudos to Sasha. I mean, all kidding aside, it's like, he's family, he feels at home, he walks around in his socks, he's on his buds, he's doing his thing, and I break his balls a lot and vent, and I hope I know Griff does. It's like I unload in an Italian way, I'm good. I get it off my chest, I'm good. So I don't dive into substance abuses to like hide it in and not do that. It's like, bleh, and then Italians are like, okay, where are we going to? We're like that. Yeah. I'd like to know, take me through how Sasha recruited you, even from, I'm going to assume a first phone call, a first letter, a first email letter. How old am I? A letter or whatever. Like, how does the great Houdini do it? Because he always brings, he brings class acts, and maybe he knows who I am of going, okay, it's not a good setting, or it is a good setting, but like, you're one of the unique ones because you're, I'm really, normal on the podcast. You won't get this when we get back home. I'll be back to who I am. But you're mature enough, but then you're also silly enough you remind me of the great ones on the wall already, just with your makeup of how you handle yourself. You go about your business, but you could laugh.
You can't take yourself too serious.
You don't come across as too good in here for high school kids and don't want to talk to the guys that you've been working out, getting ready for their pro days. So you can see all these tangibles that you already have of making a good career in the league, in my opinion. In my humble opinion that
humbly,
I said Friday.
Your humble nobody opinion.
My humble nobody opinion.
Yeah.
You know, so take me through enough. That's, here, neither here or there, and your feet are amazing, and you'll go on and play in the NFL for 10 years and be great. I get that. Take me through what that did, because I don't know anything about that. I got one for you, and it's like, okay, whatever. How much is it this year? What is it? Let's go. Like, it's not.
Yeah. No, I mean, Sasha contacted me at first the same way I think almost everybody in the business does now, through Instagram. I talked to, I don't know.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't know.
So what does he say on Instagram? Hey, pal. Hey, buddy. How does he open up?
Just, hi, I'm Sasha. Just briefly introduces himself.
Do you already know about him some?
Well, I knew about him. So I find out about him. I look into it, but obviously.
How do you find out?
Probably from that All-Star game in May that the CFL prospects have.
Yeah, that was big for me. Like, that's how people started to
Do you
really
go to
know
that?
about me.
I don't go to it. I mostly follow it. Like,
Where is it played?
it depends every year. This year I think it was in Ontario,
Hamilton.
in Hamilton.
McMaster, yeah.
And so you heard about, like, he was the standout?
Yeah, I talked to a couple scouts and I said, what do you guys think? And his name came up, and I was like, okay.
Do you go do research on him?
A little bit. Man, like I said, it's the age, the athletic ability. And obviously you don't know until you speak to them. That's one big thing for me is, talking to him and seeing kind of how he's wired.
Right. So he hits you up, hey, I'm Sasha.
Yeah.
Does he say I'm the best agent in Canada?
No, not yet.
Not yet. I never said that once.
I don't mind if you say it. Give me some. Yeah.
I'm kidding. No, yeah, he hit me up and just briefly introduced himself and be great to have a phone call. So, yeah, I was talking to a few guys at that point. So he called me and we talked for a little bit and he kind of explained his background and how he got into being an agent and then, his clients and his connections. And so it was kind of twofold in that sense, where obviously his client list was very impressive. A guy like Laurent, that's who I'm trying to follow in the footsteps of. So that part was impressive. His connections, he explained a little bit to me, were impressive too. So
is it a call?
Phone call. Yeah.
Sasha, how do you choose a call to a FaceTime?
I usually start off with a call because I think it's easier for me to be comfortable, and then after, eventually, Theo will explain it. Eventually, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's fine. And then, so we talked about that, and so there was that side to it, but I also felt like we really clicked. Like, he understood where I was at as an athlete and kind of how I thought about things, and it didn't feel so much. Some of the other agents just, you feel like they're really pitching you, and they view it, not that Sasha's unprofessional, but they view it just totally in a business sense, where Sasha was a little more interested in me as the person, and I think that shows with him being down here now and that time commitment, which I think is even more impressive than any type of monetary commitment.
I've never had it happen.
Yeah,
in 33 years, I've never had an agent live with me. Like, they might come in for a day, but usually stay at a hotel. They don't want to be that, I guess, like, Griff's worked in the business also. I don't think they want to lose that bravado of, I'm the sports agent.
Yeah.
This is the player, and this is the trainer. You know what I'm saying? That's how they see it, and it's like, let's stay that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. I remember when I asked him, not to jump ahead too much, but I asked him, like, if he was going to come to the Shrine with me and stuff like that, and he had said yes, and then we were talking about the training plan, and it was only once I signed that I realized he was actually going to come with me for all of it. I was like, holy cow, like, nobody else was doing this, so, yeah, it's been amazing.
Because, you really have taken care of him that way, because most of the guys are just dropped off. They get to McGee Tyson, and now I'm talking to him. Tell me, when you're at the gate, and I usually go in and pick them up at the luggage to meet them first instead of them walking out. Sometimes walking out, and all of a sudden they're like, I'm from Canada, you're not dropped in Atlanta, Miami, you're dropped in Knoxville.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is very unique, and you really have to trust your agent on that, of his word.
Sure,
This is amazing that he's down here with you.
No, and that's where I'm grateful, because, like, he could just do his job, set it up, and have me be dropped off, and that would be him doing what he's supposed to do as an agent, but he's gone above and beyond, so I'm appreciative of that.
Yeah. And I really appreciate the professionalism of him actually going with you this weekend to work with Willie Anderson in Atlanta.
Huge.
Big shout out to Willie that he did great with that, but then Sasha's like, wait a minute, I want to see that. I want to see Paul. Is it Paul Anderson?
Alexander.
Yeah, Alexander up in Cincinnati. He came from that, so it's like I think he's looking at all the pieces to understand it all.
Yeah, I think it's important too. I mean, we've done it in the past where I've got guys fly in, and I always like to come for a couple of days, and often what I would do is I'd come in for a couple of days, see them, and then fly out to the Shrine or to the All-Star game from Knoxville, right? We've done that in the past with other guys. I think this year it was a bit more of a puzzle, but also an opportunity was, we had to, going with Paul Alexander, there wasn't a ton of choices of dates. So when Paul said, I'm in town this weekend, which was 2 weekends ago, well, I said, okay, well, that's where it's going to be because that's our only option, really. And then the other aspect is when we had the opportunity to work with Willie, you say, Willie's future Hall of Famer, you don't really turn that down, and I think for Theo as a tackle from Canada, going up against some of the top NCAA prospects, you and I both know at the Shrine game, if you go and shut down those top prospects, you're going to open eyes from NFL scouts. So let's put our best foot forward. Focus on what you can control. Do your best, and if you go out there and you do your best and it works out, great. And if it doesn't, well, at least you did your best, and nobody will regret anything. And so for me, it was also an opportunity to see it, understand it, make sure it was worth it. Also help him feel comfortable during it. I've been to Knoxville maybe 7-8 times now, so I'm had the chance to.
What was it? 2 years ago?
Last time I came here was right before COVID. Was January 2020.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, I came here for a couple of days.
That's right.
I think that's when I did the podcast last. Was probably then.
Was it?
I think so.
Yeah.
And
was a good one.
So I mean, it worked out, but I think I'm a big believer in you do the best you can and don't leave things up for chance.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when this all came together, it was like, well, I feel like, for my takeaway after all this, I think if I'm an athlete going into the Shrine game, I go with a lot of confidence. Confident in what I can do, confident in what my preparation was. Yeah. And I think that helps you mentally when you're out there on the field with a whole new environment. You go in with confidence. I think that can make the difference between winning a rep and losing a rep.
For sure. I mean, this preparation, looking back on what I was considering, other than this plan, thank God I went with this because I would not have been ready. This has been huge for me, and I feel way better going into it, knowing I have this investment going into it to be prepared. So yeah.
So how did you you had a couple talks with them, and did it come down to a couple people?
Yeah, so we kept talking throughout the season, and I was talking to the guys and building a relationship, and then we had a Zoom call, FaceTime.
First one?
Yeah, that was the first time face-to-face with my parents, who don't know really anything at all about football.
Sure.
But are smart people, and I trust a lot their opinion, so I at least wanted to hear what they thought about everybody.
Wow, good for you. We don't hear that much with kids at this age.
Yeah, so, I love them. And then, they said... So we sat down with them. They really like Sasha a lot. They're both lawyers, so they liked his law background too. So we did that, and then because my process was weird, because I ended up initially deferring my CFL draft, I told Sasha and the other guys, I'll sign with an agent probably sometime in the spring. There's no rush to make that decision, obviously. And then a week later, I got the call to be invited to the Shrine. So then everything sped up again. And so then it, in many ways, came down to a gut feel of who I felt. I connected with the best, cared about me the most, and had the best plan.
What was your gut feel, may I ask?
Yeah, I think I liked his plan a lot, and I think he was the most honest with me also. Some of the other agents kind of try and pump your tires a little bit, and so you're so great at that, you're so great at that. When really, how would they know how good you are at anything?
What was another pitch that was probably appealing? You don't have to mention the name, but I'd love to hear how somebody, because his is so unique.
It's definitely unique.
I mean, that's either a sell, I'm all in because it's so crazy-oso, as you'd say, is you're going to Knoxville to a wood gym, you're going to live with this guy. There's no other agent that told you that.
No, definitely not. So, the other agents, and they're very competent. There's nothing wrong with them.
No, I get it.
But they, some of the other agents, they try and pitch you on, like, they're part of a bigger agency, so then they'd have more resources, supposedly, as a part of their bigger, being
What
part
were
of a
you
bigger
wanting to
agency.
have an agency? Because we talked about that this morning with the other guys that are training for the pro days this morning. Is like, I've had every athlete under the sun, and people are like, oh, I went with Rock Nation so I could meet Rihanna.
Yeah.
Or I went with this guy because I could get floor tickets here, or I want to be a model after, and they have a good modeling agency.
Yeah.
Where, some of my studs are like, I don't need my agent to be my best friend. He doesn't need my buddy and run around, especially Sasha with his family. You're not going to get that. He's going to be pure professionalism, be there for you.
Yeah.
What was the gut that was like, I'm going?
I don't care about any of that stuff. I just want to play football. So, but yeah, the bigger agencies kind of try to pitch you on that type of stuff, but I didn't really feel like that's going to add anything to my career at the end of the day. And I've talked a lot with some of my other coaches in college who have played in the pros, and they said the number one thing is you want an agent who actually cares about you, and when things aren't going well, will still put the same amount of effort in and the same amount of care into helping you. So I felt Sasha was far and away the person who fit that. So that's kind of
cool.
what it came down to at the end of the day. Yeah.
So how was the call? Like, how long did it take to solidify that he was yours, that you had him? How many months what is it, because I know Griff probably knows more of this, but and I know you do, you're a professional at it, but the recruiting process, the length of time.
In our case, what, Theo, 6 months?
Yeah,
Just
about 6 months, yeah.
I mean, it's pretty much what you kind of... I usually will get confirmation by December. Is really when kind of if the guys are signing with you or not. And... I appreciate, what Theo's saying, and I think I always say to guys that I'm talking to is being an agent for guys when it's going well is the easiest job in the world. When guys are doing well, hitting numbers, doing all-star games, dominating it, getting teams that call, where it's not the most fun job, but you have to love doing it anyways, is when it's not going well. And I think that's where for me, the way I don't recruit 20, 30 guys a year, and Theo knows that. And
yeah, that was huge too.
Recruit a handful.
Isn't it crazy how it's so crazy how some guys love that and some guys don't love it? It's
some guys want what? Really?
Well, some guys want to be part of a bigger agency, and some guys want the flash, and I'm not a flashy person. So
and then some guys and this, and when when Harrison and Pennington talk to guys in here, when guys are like, I want to go to a place to compete with 20 or 30 other guys, and Harrison will be like, you're competing with yourself.
Exactly.
You don't want to get hurt trying to compete with somebody in the weight room or doing sprints, and we know people on the wall that have blown hamstrings doing that other places and then had to come see me after. It's kind of cool that you were like, because I find most people do the opposite of what we're doing. Well, of course, but they want that 20 or 30 that and Harrison's or the schedule they sell for all that stuff, and my guys are like, you don't want to be that. Yes, we want a schedule, but you're going to do that the rest of your time in the NFL. Take this time for yourself and be basically selfish and still, be getting here, but you're working for you, right?
I mean, yeah, but also I think there's another perspective of it is I think what's valuable, the most valuable in this process is building the relationships. And if you can build relationships with people that you trust, yes, we're doing it in a time frame for an NFL draft, but this will serve you for long after the draft in terms of preparation, content, training, coaching, all these things that you want to do for your career. So, I think it's just a philosophy. I mean, some guys like more athletes, bigger facilities, stuff, which is fine. And those are not guys that I normally will sign, even if I do recruit them, which often I won't end up recruiting them anyways. And other guys like Theo get it, and they understand what you're looking for. And, we've had success here. It's worked. It's not like it's the first time going at whether it's Laurent, whether it's Anthony, whether it's Matthew, whether it's Mark, whether it's Poe, whether,
Bets.
Matthew. Yeah, exactly. Whether you look at these guys, these guys have done it. And all came from Canadian universities and all ended up getting their shot. Now, that's not saying that every guy that comes in here gets a shot. That would be too simple, but put your best foot forward and see what happens.
Yeah, I just think that it's a unique selling point of what he's got going on, because I mean at this point now Sasha's got to be the man up there. I mean, as far as I know, it's been a long time. Hopefully we roll in there this where are we, spring soon, to see Montreal and see how it's like. But last time I was there, he's just starting with Laurent in 2014, and now I know he's a grown ass man now doing his thing. It's got to be a big deal. I mean, did you know of him?
Laurent?
No, Sasha.
Oh, Sasha? No, not until he contacted
Not until he
really.
contacted.
But once he explained kind of who he was and who he worked with,
Yeah.
it was definitely impressive.
Yeah. And then...
Because there are other agents. Like, you have to... Like, I'm based out of Montreal, so I'm more in Eastern Canada, French Canada. So for me, like, Theo, I was super pumped when he signed, obviously because I wanted to sign him, but also from a pure, achievement perspective, is being able to recruit a guy who's out of Vancouver. That's not like, there are other agents, and there's a lot of agents in Canada that have a lot bigger roster than I do, because they recruit a ton of more guys, and they're good. Like Theo says, they're not bad. They're very competent. But it's just, for me, like, guys, if you notice, the guys that have come in here have pretty much all been French Canadian. From Quebec. Laurent, Anthony, Matthew Betts, Marc Dacroix.
That's true.
Catel,
Yep.
Alex Savard.
Wow.
Poe,
Yeah.
Lestage,
Where was Valancourt?
Vaillancourt, Charles. Exactly.
Where was he at?
He was out of Quebec City. So for me, like, and I haven't recruited much out west. That's a fact. Like, it's not like I've tried 10, 15 guys and it hasn't worked out.
How far is it from Montreal to Vancouver?
6 hours flight.
Yeah, it's like Seattle to, I don't know, Boston. Like,
Yeah, Seattle, New York.
What?
yeah.
Vancouver's West Coast.
I'm right on the edge, right on Pacific Ocean.
Like above Seattle?
Right above Seattle, yeah. It's like, I don't know, 2 hours from Seattle.
She said 6 hours from an airplane?
Yeah. Yeah, yes. Canada's a big country.
Country.
Canada! We should be getting our flag in today.
Open our flag
Yep,
up,
we
yeah.
got to sign our flag. Did you guys know that?
Yeah.
never thought about it.
Well, good for you guys then.
I looked it up like last week.
Oh, there you go.
That's wow. Yeah, so you're not getting in the car and going to watch them play.
No, and with Theo, it was more like, I like I said, I heard about him, and when I talked to him the first time, you could tell, like, it was surprising to hear he was just 20, because he's very mature for his age.
Yeah, I'm going to say that. Yeah.
I mean, he just turned 21.
Good looking too. It's
Oh,
more-
there you
I haven't sat across from this
Yeah.
long in a long time.
All right. Yeah.
Hello, Riley.
Bingo.
Bingo! Bingo, he's wearing black socks. Bingo will be listening to this. He is good looking, Bingo. There's the baby oil right there. It's right. I'm not lying. Don't look, Sasha. It's right there. It's my fault. Sasha's
baby
blaming it
oil.
on me. We've lost the show. We've lost it.
So basically, when you talk to him, like, you tell, and it's the maturity. And I've always said a big part of this is having the maturity and the work ethic to go through all these different steps. For me, that's the key. It's not just to train. Like, you can drop off a kid here and he'll say go train. He'll go train. Say go eat. But it's having the willingness and to just go with the plan and kind of run with it. And I was thanking him on the drive. I said, listen, thank you, man, because I know this is a bit unorthodox. I fly you to Cincinnati, then we drive you to Knoxville, then we drive you to Atlanta, then we drive you back.
Because we talked about it 2 or 3 weeks before. If it's going to be too much driving, make that decision. Which I agreed with you, then yelled at you Friday. But yeah, that's fair enough. But like I'm telling you, Griff, you should follow a camera with him going, I'd like to know an agent that would do the logistics you just did. And even go, hey, I'm going to sit up here at Chaz's, get a break, kick it for a couple of days. You take the rent-a-car and head to Atlanta.
Well, and the reality is that I think for me, like, I would not have been comfortable with that because, when I look back at this process come February 3rd or 4th after the Shrine game, there's going to be ups and downs, like in any practice, hopefully more ups than downs and whatever, but we'll both be very happy with how it went because we know we gave our all collectively for it to go well. And those are things that if you look in the past, like for me, that's the one thing I like to always say is focus on what you can control. What you control is the effort you put in preparation. So if you say go to Atlanta, have fun, but he goes down there, doesn't eat well, and ends up losing 5-10 pounds, comes back, and all the gains did for a week is lost, well, you know what? That's on me. 'Cause that means the plan was off. So I think that's where I didn't want to leave it up to chance. So when we came back and we weighed him, and he weighed the same thing as when he left.
And you guys didn't weigh at all. That's why I was
No.
like, those sons of bitches.
I
did
kept
not
looking
weigh.
for a scale. But
And I was like, it worked out great.
I mean, I just figured it was worth not thinking about it. And that's something I took out of your book. Remember how you say, like, sometimes stress just adds to it? So if you're always weighing, I figure, you know what, this weekend, let's just trust it.
Yep.
Quantity of food, the right food.
Yep.
And he did a great job. He ate it. We had everything lined up. But I think it's just important. Like, I won't be able to do this every year. Like,
Right, right.
This is a
right.
unique situation. But it was a situation where it allowed me also to see kind of what this process looked like.
Well, tell the audience also, he's in a unique position anyway because the East-West game is your junior, correct? So explain this. This is really crazy. Explain this.
Well, because of COVID, basically, guys get an extra year if they want to. So, although this is his draft year, he could technically defer it to next year if he wanted to.
So he could, let me explain to the audience, he could do well at the East-West game.
Yeah.
And you guys have a huddle or whatever and go, hey, I'm going to come out. Or if he did okay, he could still do well and it's in his heart or gut or whatever you guys decide. Go, hey, go back. He could go back, play another year, and then go back to the East-West game. So he'd come back and do the training the same way, hopefully. I'd love to have him back. And then he'd do the East-West game or maybe the Senior Bowl.
Well, he'd have to be invited, right? Like,
Right.
there's no guarantee. But
Right.
yeah, we have until February 3rd to file that paperwork if he wants to defer. If he doesn't
Has that
defer,
been done before?
it's new because of COVID. Because these COVID rules, the NFL put in place, has allowed this flexibility. If it wasn't for COVID, it would be his draft year, and that was it. Like, there'd be no decision.
And even when I asked the head of the Shrine game about it, can I play twice? He said, well, technically, there's no rule against it. So yeah, it's unprecedented, but
It's a new rule for everybody.
Yeah.
You know, the COVID hit 2020, so this is all we're still in the middle of all these kind of potential changes.
So how many weeks do we have? A week and a half till February 2nd or 3rd? It's on the calendar, Griffey. I'd have Ben look, but he doesn't have his shades on.
What is today?
Holy smokes! January 23rd.
Let's see. You got 1 week.
it should be a week and 3 days, no?
Yeah.
So
10 days, 10 days.
Yeah,
10
so
days.
10 days. So you have the February 2nd or 3rd, and then you got to pull the trigger on something.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's all on you two guys.
Yeah,
Yep.
pretty much.
It's pretty big.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's decisions that are always difficult to make, but that it's pretty privileged to make them.
For sure.
To be in a position where you can decide if it's better for me to come out this year or next year in the NFL draft. I mean, you'd want to be in that position every year. That means something
Anderson
good
was saying
happening.
it's amazing that they can do that in Canada, and he was saying how blessed
But
I was.
his
to have that
age,
chance.
man, the NFL scouts love that. His age. And I know it works both ways, but man, oh man, when they see those 23, 24, it's different. Or the 25s.
Well, that's the good thing is when he goes in, if he does defer, he's only going to be 22. See, we're still in that range. That's good.
So it's a win-win. I mean, you're winning.
Gotta look at it that way. Yep. Yep. Hopefully.
It's what you make of it.
Yeah.
And there's pros and cons to each. And there's really no, in my opinion, bad decision. I told you, there's no bad decision. It's more of what you feel more comfortable. It goes to the same thing we're talking about is when you look back at it, what is it that makes you feel like you'll be the most comfortable whether you get it or not?
So has everything lived up to what Sasha told you so far?
Training wise, yeah. I mean, down here he tried to prepare me for it, but I don't think there's any way you could ever prepare anybody for what they're about to walk into.
I just can't get my eyes off you right now.
Yeah. You're the one who looks like John Wick. That's what he said. So.
Oh, that's right. I knew I loved him. Yeah, that was one night. Yeah, John Wick.
I've got a question.
Here you go. Finally, he's using the mic, man.
I mean, because I think when we were coming in, what was it, last Sunday?
Yeah.
Sasha, you were talking about how you really do a really good job selling this place. And I think for me and most people that listen to this, they know so much about you guys, but from Charlie's perspective. And I think what would be interesting is hearing your guys' perspective of what you think about Charlie and what you had heard about it through the other guys, but also about the confidence process, because I think that's also been a big thing with you guys being down here, about being with different people that have kind of given you insight and going into this.
Yeah, I mean, Charlie, like we said, we talked about a lot of how you describe him. I told Sasha the other day, like, he's 1 minute he'll be joking with you about girls and busting your balls, and the next minute he'll send you a Bible verse. And what's amazing about that is it's funny, but it's also, what's amazing is that it's authentic, and that's who he truly is.
I'm a very imperfect, broken human being.
I don't even know if I should laugh at that.
But it is. But aren't we all?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I'm struggling every day, and if I didn't have Jesus Christ in my life, I would be. I mean, you see so sometimes it comes out, and it's like, whoa. So yeah, it's crazy. Like I know. I mean, we could get on that all day long. But it's not. It's not rehearsed or fake.
No, definitely not.
It's
real.
Not.
That's all I can ask for.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, but being down, like, I've never worked out this hard in my life. Like I said, I worked hard before, but never this hard. And going into probably the biggest moment in terms of my career, to do that beforehand is obviously huge. Like, that's what you need, because I'll never be more prepared than I will be for that.
We noticed today, Griff and I did, when he was just standing there, how I knew it would happen. Everything filled up on him from the break. From the 17 days, his body looked totally different. And he, that's why he probably got that 225.
Probably.
I could have done that from the start.
It's a joke. But not the joke you filled up. I mean, just because he was hitting it so hard with the trading. So it's been everything, the food, everything's been like, I do, like, when seriousness comes, it's like I try to have so much fun because it's so intense anyway. I try to make it loose.
I told Sasha the same thing. Like, these workouts, like, if it's just, you're just slogging away at them and just kind of trying to get through them, like, it gets old fast. And that way you're not putting in the same energy you would. Whereas if you can come here, joke around and have a good time while you're doing it, it makes it that much easier, and therefore you go that much harder.
Well, and that's what we talked about. I think the stress factor is, like, I try to make it loose for you, but I know what goes into it, because I totally change at this time of year. And I feel it and I know it because I take on, like, your livelihood's in my hands, and I take that responsibility so huge that I laugh it off. Does that make sense? That nervous laugh when you're, like, going to do something, you're, like, super nervous. That's where it is for me. Because I like getting nervous. It's not like, Griff has probably heard it more than anybody in this room. Sure, I could do it with the back of my hand. I could do it with my eyes closed or whatever. But I still write your workouts like an intent.
8 mile.
Right. Mark DeQuad's folders right there.
Right.
And I could easily take all his workouts and put it to him. Yeah. But I don't, because he's different. Exactly. But everybody would take that folder because he had the best pro day in 33 years that I've had.
Yeah. And he had a crusher pro day.
Amazing pro day. I mean, I was like, was that me? It's like, you're almost getting that imposter syndrome of, like, there's no way I did that with a guy, like, followed it to a T, but then I make yours. Yeah. So I think I take so much pressure on, I become that imbecile, if that, so to speak, of, like, I don't know, Griff, you probably understand that more than I do. It's like I'm so serious that I have to laugh and be crazy. Then
it's a release, exactly.
It's a lot. Everything's riding on your livelihood, and even Sasha, I don't take anything for granted that he hired me. He could go anywhere in the country and take somebody. I still bring that humbleness to the table of, like, wake up and go, okay, it's a privilege to train you. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Oh,
I don't get over myself because why? I still have to take out the trash.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
There's, like, a huge trust process between the both of you guys. Like,
yeah.
Oh, for sure.
I've never, like, Sasha doesn't question anything. Usually, like, the way I've viewed it over the past week or two, it's very, like, hands off, and, like, there's a deep trust. But also, like, it's interesting, like, watching from my perspective, from that outer scope through the past week. And actually, after doing the interview with Sasha, is, like, y'all's system works. And, like, for me, from the outside perspective, looking more from, like, the statistics of, like, just making it in NFL in general, but then someone making it from the Canada, and then what you guys have produced over the past 10 years, like, the numbers are crazy, because see, like, what's been produced just over the past 10 years.
Well, you're so easy. I know this is crazy. You're so easy to work with. I wish every agent could understand that. Now, I know, like, intense and uptight or whatever, but when it really comes down to it, it's
Well,
you know what I'm saying? That's complex. That's so complex of saying that because nobody sees it. But it's to me, you're not. I don't know.
You don't see that in the agency realm.
No.
Well, I think it's when you have that relationship built, and like you talk about how you sell it. It's actually, and Theo can probably confirm this. Is I don't sell it. I basically come and I say, listen, there's a trainer that I love in Knoxville who you're gonna live with. You're gonna train like you've never trained. He's gonna get you ready. But why can I say that? Because I know that when Charlie has, whether with my athletes or other athletes that are under his wing, he'll do anything to make sure that they're ready for it. And that is extremely, extremely valuable. That dedication. But it's hard to put in words. It's hard to actually explain. So over the years, what I've done is more like with the trust with the player, saying, listen, if you're hiring me, I promise you this will be worth your time. It's hard to explain besides the general guideline that he's a great trainer who's trained guys like Laurent, guys like Anthony, guys like Duqua, guys like Betts, but also guys like T. Higgins, Leonard Fournette, Chad Pennington, Harrison Smith. So these are the bigger names, but you also got the Canadian name, but you also got the smaller school. Like you got a mix of everything. But the individual, you can't sell it. You can't present that. It doesn't do it justice.
No, he kept telling me, just trust me.
Yeah.
And there has to be like a leap of faith to any of this process. So I was like, all right, let's do it. Because like being from Vancouver, I tell you, you're going to go to the hills in Tennessee. Like I don't know where I was heading, but it's definitely been worth it.
So Theo, when you got and you go look up on Instagram, he tells you about Charlie, like,
yeah,
what's running through your mind?
Oh well, he's big. Okay, I know why he's saying that. That's a good. He thinks you could figure somebody out through their Instagram posts.
Not you.
Did you see his face? You missed it. You missed his face.
So what's running through your mind? When
Well, he told me about the gym and how he had built it himself. And I was going like, well, I don't know what he's talking about when he comes. Like, I don't know how that's possible. And I was looking at the Instagram, so that it started to make more sense, like visually, into where I was heading. But Charlie the person, like, there's no.
You don't get it on Instagram in the tux.
You get like maybe 10% of it, and then I came here and was, wow.
Well, you see Harrison Smith jumping on a pogo stick, and
Yeah, I didn't see that one until I got down here. But I'm gonna go tell my strength guy to put that in our program.
The Vikings did.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it is, So, and I think that's what the beauty of this is when you work with somebody, you have to trust. And it's all like we talk about trust, player, agent, but with the trainer and when I look back at it and you talk to, like, I texted Anthony, guess where I am? I sent a picture of Chaz. Petrone.
So I just took a picture of the video of him doing his bench, of Theo doing his bench, and then a still shot of him doing the straight arm pull downs with the jerseys. He had Higgy, and then Laurent, and Anthony already hit me back, like, thumbs up with Canadian flags, like, go get him, Chaz. You know what? Yeah. I think it's easy. I think I look forward. I know what I'm getting. Where 33 years you talk to different agents. Some people you've never known or met. You just over a phone, and they're sending their guys in for 4 to 6 weeks. You don't know what you're getting in the household. But I think with Sasha, it's the person's better than the athlete if that's possible. And that's what I actually enjoy most of getting a relationship. And not the cornball stuff that everybody says from the gyms to the agents of, like, family relationships or whatever. But I'm an Italian. I just do different things. I would go by and rub his head, and he might think that's I can't
friendly?
say the words anymore.
Friendly?
Right, friendly. That's better than what I. Yeah, but 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 it's who I am. You know what I'm saying? And that's not a fake, but it's because I gravitate to good people that are getting after it too. But you've always sent the best. I mean, if any sports agents out there are listening, you might want to take a bite of his business plan and how it works and how we basically created it together a little. I would say of like when you say selling, Sasha's not a seller as much as like, this is what I could do for you, matter of fact, and this is how it's going to be. take it or leave it. I'd love to work with you once you're with me, but if you're not with me, it's just like people in the wood gym. If you're here, great. If you're not here, I'm not putting energy into it. Don't wish you any ill intent.
And I've had guys that I've recruited who, have told me like Charlie and they're like, oh, well, what about these options, like training options? And I think that the best thing to do is not fight it, and it's because I'm like, okay, if you want to look into that, I'll look into it.
There's been guys other places, right? I mean, not you don't sign.
The only NFLer prospect that I've had who has not
DB with the Cardinals.
Right, but he was coming off a torn Achilles. He wasn't training. He was rehabbing.
Got it.
Was Ryan Hunter, who played for the Chiefs and the Chargers, but he actually was super, and I thought this was super cool. He wanted to train at his school.
Super cool.
Ryan's to this day. I work with Ryan.
Yeah,
Ryan, and Ryan told me from the get go, I don't want a facility. He said, I got nothing. Like I'm sure it's great, but I love my strength coach, and I know I can bring my weight down. And you know what? He brought his weight down with a meal plan, and he trained at his school, and he ran a 5.140 at 3:15, and he signed with the Chiefs and went on their Super Bowl winning team.
He didn't run that 4.96 with Laurent.
No, he didn't run a 4.96, but not many people have either.
I know it.
But and I've had guys that I haven't signed that have gone other directions, which is fine. But I'm not there to say you have to go Petrone or I'm not going to sign you, because then it looks like, well, are you not open-minded?
Right.
But then when I look at other facilities, I'll tell them the pros and cons. I'd be like, listen, one thing I love about working with Charlie is a guy's taken care of. Like, one reason why I don't have to travel every year like this, like what I did in Atlanta, was because when I know they're living with Charlie, I know they're taken care of from A to Z. Like, I got no worry that they're going to be in great hands.
We talked through it, but we talked through it about some bigger facilities, but at the end of the day, like, once you laid it all out to me, this made the most sense by far.
Well, because I can't endorse it as well. I can say, listen, we can look into it. I've looked into it. We talked about other places. And it's not even the money. It's not even it's not that you're trying to save, because you're not, like, it's everything is.
But besides, like, I'm sorry to interrupt, but it gets to this, and you know this being in the business, and you know enough of this. You've been in this, enough of this. What do they know? How and this is much respect to you. Know? Yeah, the 19, 20-year-old going, hey, I need to go there. And now I understand the guy from the Ryan Hunter guy.
Yeah.
And I even look at it this way with Harrison Smith. Since I've had him since 8th grade, that's not even a high school strength coach. That's something that is like the first thing that father said, Steve Smith and Harrison, is like, we'll talk everything, but we're not talking training. And they're like, well, we send our guys here. And they're like, that's great, but this is that. How can you get to, or do you get to where it's not like a, what's that called? A dictatorship. It's not saying that, but hey, this is where I send my guys. And the percentage of this has worked, and this is where it is. And what makes a guy like Theo go, okay, cool, because I never understood how the 20 to 21 to 22-year-old player dictates their financial advisor, their training spot, where if they hire you, like what you've done this last 8 days, I don't think another agent has ever done that. So now you could go, I know, like, I guess, you know what I'm saying is, like, where's the agency or the agent that goes, you sign with me, this is where you train, unless you have an exceptional or special exception of the Ryan Hunter or the Harrison Smith. But this is where I send my guys. Cool. You know better than I do. I'm just coming out of college. But instead, when they give the guys choices of 10 financial advisors, 10 facilities, most of the American college athletes are going Miami, LA, Arizona, the big ones with everything there or whatever, where we get everything done. You get your ice bath. We're going to do that tomorrow. We get 4 bags of ice and put you in the tub.
Wait.
You get your deep tissue. You want sports psychology, we have that. Interview process, you don't need it. You're doing it now, you're perfect. You know what I'm saying?
I think it's just the way you approach it is.
I mean, I think you do it almost better than anybody I know by going, hey, this is, but, what are your other options?
Well, it's more that. It's not that saying. I think if I would impose it, it's a bit of a problem. But when you say, listen, what I know, what has worked for me, and what has worked for guys like the guys we talked about, Laurent. Like, we talk about Laurent a lot, but like a guy like Marc Dequoy, we talked about Marc. I mean, Marc was a Canadian, cornerback, University of Montreal, and he's trying to make it in the NFL. He's got white guy, and he's got a broken arm. And at the Shrine, he's playing with a cast. You remember this? And his only shot at this is having a heck of a 40 in a pro day, because look at a Canadian DB, white DB, like Theo says, Canadian white DB for Canadian University, and want to make it to the NFL. Well, you know what? He ran a 4.35 and he signed with the Packers.
Mm-hmm.
And you
20 pounds heavier.
20 pounds heavier.
Yeah, he came at
over 200. He weighed over 200 pounds at his pro day.
Yeah. Now you know how he got there.
Yeah.
But the
hard work.
But so then what happens is you say, this is what has worked for these guys.
Got it.
And this is what I am 150% comfortable with. And 9 times out of 10, the guys are on board. Now, when guys are curious about other options, they hear things, they talk to other agents, they see things on Instagram.
Most guys, yeah, don't they? I hear all the time that I'm the only trainer that doesn't reach out to players to get them to come train for Combine, but they say that's a huge thing of other trainers and
Instagram
agencies.
is everything now. That's, to be honest with Sasha, the only trainers I even knew about were guys that are big on Instagram. And so that's who you just naturally think, I got to go train with that guy because he's the guy who's big on Instagram.
But are you going to train with that guy? Since you're the Canadian guy, you might get the intern. You know what I'm saying? You might...
No, exactly. And that's where, I think... And when guys get it, like Theo, then it's a heck of a box checked for me.
Do you ever have to have the athlete? I know who even Griff worked with, the agencies. Do you ever have a former player talk to the other player, even to sell you and to sell the Wood Gym and Petrone?
That is not.
That's big in the business, isn't it?
I haven't had to do that.
Never.
Not that I recall. No. I mean, I offered.
Laurent never had to get on the phone and talk to him.
No.
No.
And Laurent's asked me if you need me,
right.
And you know what? I tell him and I say, listen, that your input would be more than appreciated. But I think that
I got this.
No, not even I got this, but I think that I don't want to force it on the player. And I think
unless he wanted to go, hey, I'd like to talk.
And I offered. I say, if everyone talk to other my guys, feel free.
Got it. Okay. Wow.
He
really does it loose.
Yeah, I mean, Laurent.
As anal as he is, he does that loose.
I'm not that bad.
No, but Laurent's got about 9 different jobs going on at once somehow all the time. I don't understand how it's so impressive. So
he's the Renaissance.
Who am I to step in the middle?
Elitist.
He makes his own syrup, and he is an elitist, and he owns it, and he deserves it. Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah.
But I think that's just, I think for me is when you give them the choice, but you give them your recommendation, your advice. And I even told them about, Paul. I said, listen, I've never seen Paul. I've heard great things about Paul Alexander. I mean, with my opportunity this year to actually sit in and watch it and understand it, now that I'll know what I'm talking about. And Willie, I knew Willie as a player. He was a great player. I didn't know him as a coach. And I told him before we went, I said, listen, I'm letting you know, this is new for me as well, but you know what? It was worth it. And it complemented everything nicely, and you feel more, in control of the process.
It was kind of cool. He talked about the core, and that's all we've been hammering. Not all, but we've
hammered it.
I'm a huge core guy.
I need it. Yeah. So.
I love hammering athletes.
that's
interesting word choice.
I mean, I do it just banging away at it for the first 3 or 4 days where they're crippled. I love that third day when they walk down the steps and they look like a raccoon with their eyeballs, and you're like, he's there. And then all of a sudden, then the maturation phase comes and the adaptation phase comes where it's now they're going to start growing.
But one thing I will add to this, and I think it's important, is, you talk about how I sell it, but, one of the biggest vote of confidence I ever got as a young agent, because when I met Charlie, I was 22. Wow. And going into this was he believed in me from the start. And it kind of gives you that motivation to keep going, because I remember after I recruited, when Laurent after with the Chiefs, you're like, oh, this is gonna be great, and my next recruiting in 2015 was no after no after no, no player wanted to sign with me because they were like, who's this 23-year-old, yes, he's Laurent's buddy, but is he really for real? And Charlie had been in the business for a while. He had seen other agents. For him to say, listen, you're gonna be good at this, you're got to keep going at it, it helped. So I think where I am today is also a big part thanks to the vote of confidence I've gotten. And although we're very close, I consider him very close friend. At the end of the day, it's about results. And when you see athlete after athlete go in and leave, and like Anthony goes in and trains for his pro day and his shrine game, and a couple of years later on his way back from Tampa driving home, he says, I'm going to take the detour and I'm going to stop in Knoxville. Was it like New Year's?
Yeah.
He stopped?
Yeah.
You know?
I gave him my bed. I slept on the couch. And he was with his lady.
And the relationship, that's what I'm saying, the relationship you build. So, and even more so for Theo, like when he told me he was planning on deferring, it would have been easy for me to say, well, you know what? Let's not do anything this year. Mm-hmm. Just go in the shrine, cold turkey, see what happens. But my point was, let's do the process if it's the draft this year. And if it's the draft, great. But if you defer, now you have all your people set up. So now, come next December, you know exactly what you're going into. You know exactly what your game plan is going into the different steps.
Yeah, I mean, he had it. He's got those it factors.
So Sasha, like you actually living at Charlie's house and being the first agent, right?
Yeah.
Being the first agent.
I mean, people have come through and like ate a dinner or something, but you know, that's not the same feel as what we do.
Watching all the extra stuff that most people wouldn't know about, especially from the outside perspective, has it changed anything in your mind in regards to what also goes on at the house and the attention to detail?
Well, it kind of confirms what, and I think it's hard, like I said earlier, it's hard to explain certain things, but when you're an athlete, there's a huge value in coming home from training, going to your room with your own shower, coming down, lunch is ready.
Huge.
Oh, okay, I could get a snack because I'm still hungry. Oh, let's go back to train. Oh, let's come back. Let's talk about the day in training. Hey, what do you think we should change? What do you think we should adapt? Oh, let's wait. Let's have dinner. Oh, let's weigh yourself. And I mean, listen, you can maybe get away with it on your own and for a few days, but you're trying to get results. You need you need a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you need some time. So that's what he puts together. So for me, it's like it's hard to put. You can't compare it to just a facility where you're gonna go stay in a condo and you're gonna pick up your meal on the way out. But what if he's still hungry after? You're gonna Uber eat it?
What if he's sick?
Yeah.
And he needs medicine. He needs to go to the emergency room.
And just the whole support staff.
We were almost there after day 3.
Homeostasis. Yeah.
I mean, that's so I've stayed at Charlie's a couple of nights in the past. Like I've been lucky to, back in I think it was 2016 I came down and
because he really cares for his clients. I mean, that's what I saw out of him. And shame on some of the people that didn't go with you for different reasons because they really missed out. They really, but I'm just saying that, and I get emotional and I hate doing this, but you're special too.
Well,
man.
I appreciate it, man.
You are.
But I mean, at the end of the day, like I feel like these things, it's all part of the process. And like I was telling my wife when Theo when he told me on the phone he signed with me, like I ran up the stairs freaking out, like I was, and I told Anna, like she's like, my wife, she was happy, and I said, you're pumped. I said, I'm pumped for many reasons. First of all, this kid gets it. Like, it's hard to find, like, you can be a top athlete. Right. And, like, Canada's pool is limited. It's not like you can choose from 60 NFL prospects a year. On average, if you get 3 to 4 NFL prospects in Canada in a year, that's a really good year. Yeah. So you have to be, he's got the talent, he's got the athletic ability, but he's also got the approach to the game and to the process that you need to succeed. So for me, that's what it is. And there are some guys that are not going to sign, but that's just part of the process. You do your best, and when you hear that, if I know I put my best foot forward, I'm fine. The times I've been the most disappointed in myself is when I feel like I did not do a good job in my recruiting. I was late to the party. I didn't know enough about the kid. I didn't do my homework. I got distracted. And if I don't get him, then that's on me.
Well, that's self-awareness.
But if you do everything you can to get it,
right,
then it's okay.
Yeah. And this whole group, all of us in here are kind of cool with the one thing we do is, like you said earlier, we don't take ourselves too serious, but we can be serious when we have to.
Take what we do seriously.
Right. Yeah. But we all laugh at each other and laugh at ourselves and oh my gosh, and all the great ones do that. They're really like, it's not even a humble, it's like a self-deprecation with confidence.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I think we all have, this whole room has done that before. But you have class act people that like go on and do other things past football, and I think that's what you were thinking about when we talked about Anthony. And how do you? And I know we're running on time, we got to eat, but I wanted to ask that one question: how do you set them up after? Do you like, what is it? We talk about that all the time, Griff, and I know Ben has heard that as like the pinnacle is over, and it's like, okay, what's next? Do you sell that in your portfolio, your booklet of transitioning out of the NFL or CFL to the next chapter of your life? Because I find, I've been in the business 33 years, and you find some people that don't think about that, and they never recover.
It's for sure something that I present, and I think my biggest thing is I'll always be like available to help with that process to the extent that the athlete wants help. So, Laurent and I are business partners outside of football. Like we do things, but like
run for prime minister there.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But even like Anthony, like he's not shy to ask me for advice on certain projects that he has, and he's had ideas that I've helped him with and develop. And I think it's super important because I feel like if you
Charles Valancourt.
Yeah, well, he was set up
family business,
Christmas trees.
Yeah, Christmas tree. What a great guy.
That's cool.
Yeah, huge business, beautiful business. He's taking it over now. He's, and Charles, he had a good CFL career. Got
Malumba's still playing?
No, he's coaching now.
He's coaching now.
Yeah,
perfect.
Yeah,
because we keep in touch on.
Oh yeah.
On DMs and texts and stuff like that. But
so it's just like, for me, it's part of it, and I think it's everything in its own time. But if you're able to be balanced, and if you go to work and football becomes a job, and all you think about is your job in any sphere, in any profession, you're never gonna be your full potential. If you go to work because you enjoy it and there's got other things, then it makes it much more enjoyable.
Yeah. And you knew you wanted to do this
since I was about 10 years old.
Yeah.
That was my dream job as a kid.
We talked about that. Yeah. How it takes. Griff is a big believer in the 10-year rule. So he thinks like, since I'd like wanted to do this at 18, even though I wrote my first program at 13, but 18, it was like, because he figured out I played sports for all the training systems of the energy systems. And I played all these sports, but was never great at any of them. But I played all the sports, right? And that's how he was like, well, 18, 28. That picture was 2000. I was 30 then in that article. So I was hitting stride pretty good right there. Yeah. So he's a big believer in that. So when people start at different times, like Griff, for example, his father at Griff's age was, 2 or 3 year, starting linebacker for the 49ers, and Griff's now 2 years into doing this. So he's like, well, Dad, give me some time and explain that rule. It actually makes a lot of sense, man. Kudos to that one. That was cool.
Yeah.
Man, I think everybody wants to eat. Did we accomplish everything? I mean,
so,
I mean, this was I love the pod. It's good for the soul. I like them a lot. And when you talk about, when you talk about faith and like a leap of faith, I know where you guys are, but when I study stuff, I go deep with the sports and the speed books and even business books, but it's Hebrews 11:1 in the Bible. Faith unseen. So you don't see it, you just trust Sasha, and Sasha trusts that, and he trusts me, and then you're like, I'm going to take it's called a leap of faith, and we're in a society now of what generation Z's, Y's, whatever it is, they don't take a leap of faith. They're scared. They never think they're ready for it. Instead of like jumping and figuring it out, like make the parachute your body or your clothes and you'll figure it out, but nobody wants to do that. So kudos to you for trusting Sasha and Sasha and embracing that and coming down here and crushing it. And then you're always going to have a spot. The wood gym in my house is always open to you, so that's awesome. I can't wait to see you do big things in the NFL, which you are. I mean, it's not a hope, it's a no. It's a no. So what do you got?
Well, that's credit to you guys.
I was just gonna like the statistics aspect to it.
Yeah.
Because I was looking at it before. So like in the United States, just the United States, there's 1,093,234 high school football players. 6.5% of those players, which is 70,000 players, will play in college. So of that 70,000, 1.2% of them will play in the NFL. So you got to think about the statistics that just go into that. That's just in the United States. So like you were saying, I'm just saying with what you guys have done in the systems, and from my perspective of learning the story, the statistics, and then what you guys have been able to do in the process and like the pipeline.
That's what
I'm just saying,
if
you're Canadian, there's something in that I think people should take a look at if they're trying to take that path.
I mean, I wouldn't bet against Sasha with anybody. I mean, that's kudos to him. He's got.
Well, I'm just there to help. It's the guys. It's the work they put in.
A lot of the agents aren't there to help.
Yeah, well,
like define what help is. And I'm
Right.
not. Whether I'm calling them out or calling them out, they know where I am. But they're not helping. They're helping, and it's passive. He's doing your model, my model, your model. It's the same model. It's so much more than just numbers and business. You know what I'm saying? Like people could pick. I'll get to the phone eventually, but you could call me at some point or text me, and I'll be there for you. I mean, I'd love that. I mean, because my millions of dollars, I'm not wealthy and, private jets, even though we talked about that on our last one, but my millions is watching, like Griff said, is like every game we had on last weekend, you had people on all the teams, and I forget that. And then, last night you're watching people do good things, and when winners cheer for winners and losers don't cheer for winners. They're usually like the opposite. So it's fun to watch because when you're with people that are doing what they do, that's what you want to surround yourself around because they want to elevate you. And it's so fun watching him, and especially the thing he had going with Laurent was like, felt so good. It was like a Chad Pennington Petrone thing like that. And then watching you guys do your stuff, and then even everybody doing their things, man. It's so awesome to watch. Well, I love you guys, man. I really do. And
well, thanks, Chaz. That's the best.
Thanks for putting up with me. I know I'm a pain in the
ass. No, we wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
It's an Italian hothead. I'm a lot of things, but we can't talk about them on air. But hey, Binko, this guy is good looking. All right, I'll let you guys go. Let's go eat. I love you guys.
Thanks, Chaz. Thank you, man.